Sports. One of the worst things in it has to be travel back-to-backs. Welcome in to the DNVR Avalanche Postgame show, live from the Toyota Lounge. It was a loser's lounge. Tiff predicted it, confirmed. Powered by your front-rank Toyota dealerships and presented by Bet365. Avs lose 3-2 to the St. Louis Blues in a frustrating game. Mike and Rudo. I think I'm actually going to fall on the side that I don't think this game is as bad as it looked at times, but also, you know, the Avs did not play particularly well for long stretches. I don't know, Mike, what's your vibe on this one?
I'm with you. I think the Avs, all things considered, did a nice job of recovering, playing their way back into it. Certainly looked like they had tired legs throughout and kind of had to play their way into the matchup, which isn't shocking on the second matchup of a back-to-back, but you both kind of start poor and then you blow it late. So you start with frustration and then you leave with a kind of a bad taste in your mouth. So it's one of those where it just kind of was bookended by frustrating sequences. So I understand why there's probably going to be some Avs fans feeling some kind of way tonight. But yeah, I mean, you got a desperate effort from a St. Louis team who was playing for their playoff lives, and credit to them. I thought they were pretty impressive tonight.
Yeah, a lot of credit to St. Louis. Not only did they play well defensively, I thought they recognized the game they were in. They did a great job of using their legs and their speed to punish a team for the Avs that, unfortunately, out of their control, ran out of gas in this game because they were playing yesterday. There are plenty of other issues that the Avs had, and we'll get into all of those. And I don't want to remove blame from the problems that the Avs had, but St. Louis understood the situation and took advantage of an Avs weakness tonight.
Yeah, they, to their credit, 100% recognized the moment. You've got Colorado coming off of a big win in Dallas, and there's probably an element of human nature in that, right? I know we've said that a lot of late, so it probably rings on deaf ears at some point, but you got the game you really wanted to win. Now it's the second game of a back-to-back. You're playing a desperate team who's trying to keep their playoff dreams going. Not shocking that it played out this way, all things considered.
What was sitting Nichushkin telling of the way this was going to go?
I didn't love that, especially 15 minutes before pregame. You get that news drop, and it's just like, oh, all right. So it is going to be one of those.
Yeah, I do think there's maybe not causation, but probably correlation between the two outcomes there. It is what it is. Again, I do think there's plenty of problems you can look at that we'll get into, but let's hit the 60-second rundown before we do anything else. Avs actually scored first in this game, and I thought started off pretty well, but unfortunately they were offside for that goal, so it comes back, and that immediately puts the Avs into the tank. Basically, St. Louis takes over the first period, then they score first, and it actually counts on a chaos mode, offensive zone rebound fest. That makes it 1-0. The Avs do get it back to 1-1 off of a great tip from Parker Kelly in the first. The second period maybe feels a little bit more even, at least at 5-on-5. The Avs do have a lead for a grand total of about 20 seconds in this hockey game as they get a goal from Brent Burns, but immediately give it back for Robert Thomas's second of the game on just tough defensive coverages. And then you go into the third period. Both teams fail to score on power plays. The Avs ultimately make a lot of bad decisions that lead to Robert Thomas's hat trick to win the game, and the Avs aren't able to muster a third goal. Not bad. That one was pretty easy to fit in 60 seconds, to be honest. Not a ton happened in that game, but I really do think if that first goal counts, This is a completely different hockey game. It completely shifted the way the Avs approach this game. And this is not like, oh, boo you. Completely the Avs' own fault. Jack Drury's just got to stay on side there. Like, you cannot mess that up.
This isn't a perfect comp or metaphor by any means, but it kind of feels like when you go into a test not really having the highest of hopes anyways, maybe you didn't quite study enough. You had somewhat of an inclination of how it was going to go, and you just totally bomb the first question. You don't even recognize it, and it's just one of those like, oh, all right, well, this is how we're starting. I'm not even going to try. I thought the Avs played their way back into it and did respond some down the stretch, but I'm with you. It just felt like the wind went out of their sails early when that goal got overturned. And I feel for my man Ross Colton. We were talking about him pregame. Yeah. Would have been great to see him get on the board, the vibes going. That man's a little bit cursed, but I don't want to be making too many excuses. These are professional athletes. The expectation is always to win, even when you understand what the circumstances and the context of the current situation this team is in. Yeah. I just keep coming back to the inevitability, the human nature of it all. Like it felt like that happened, and it just kind of confirmed what we were in for tonight.
And it's frustrating because this game was super duper winnable, right? If the Avs were on the first period and gave up 4 goals, it's all right, whatever, throw it away. But 2-2 game going into the third period. I think you actually had a number of guys that had played pretty well. And then really I struggle to blame them too much for the third period because it was just very obvious that there was no legs left. I mean, they had that one little stretch where they kind of expended their last bits of energy after the good penalty kill, and then it was just they had nothing left to skate in the legs. It is what it is, and you would have loved to get it done. I think you can definitely look at some of the opportunities they had that they failed to find the back of the net on. That maybe that would have been a difference maker for them, but it didn't end up happening. So it's tough on that front for them. But if we try and keep it a little bit chronological here, I don't know. Is it really just tired legs, tired minds that led to the defensive issues in this game for the Avs? Or just why were there so many breakdowns tonight?
I think the legs are a big factor. I also think the execution just wasn't quite there. They're just the reaction time, the thought process, everything is probably taken a little bit slower. And then frankly, you don't have the best defenseman in the world out there, and you felt it in a major way in this one. I mean, you're giving up odd man rushes left and right. I'm sure we'll talk plenty about Blackwood tonight, but he got put in a couple of tough spots, and you feel for him on a night where you were hoping to see him be able to generate some confidence. But yeah, it felt like guys were a half step slow and out of position pretty consistently in this one. And it to St. Louis's credit, every time they got one of those chances, they found the back of the net, and the Avs created some chances going the other way. You didn't execute.
Well, I want to talk about that first goal specifically, and we can get into Blackwood more in detail later. I really don't think this game changed anything either way.
It's not on him at all.
Yeah, well, and that's my point. The first goal of this game, Blackwood makes 3 or 4 saves on that sequence, and then the 5th opportunity finds the back of his net.
Get it out of there at some point.
Right. The other night against Dallas for Scott Wedgwood, you guys barely gave up a second chance opportunity at all. Like, that one is squarely on the defense for me. You have to find a way to make a play at a certain point to help your goalie out.
You would have liked to have seen them bail him out on a couple of these sequences, and there were a few recoveries here and there. Like Burns had the nice play where he sold out. But also that's another instance of you just go in desperation mode because you didn't have the initial right read. But I was frustrated on that first one, especially just because of how many chances they had to get it out. And you had like 3 dudes right there.
Yeah. It's tough when the Avs playing on that defensive sequence was collapsed down to your net. And then you had 5 guys standing around your net, essentially doing nothing. Like
making it harder for Blackwood to see the puck at that point.
If you're going to collapse down, you got to make a play on the puck, not just stand there and exist. So that one was a little bit tough for me. The other ones are far more bad decisions and systemic breakdowns of goals against the Avs, I think, than just chaos and nobody seeming to know where they're going. But we can get into those a little bit. I do want to not be completely negative here because the Avs' first goal of the game that actually counted, Parker Kelly hits 20 goals on the season. That guy is a fourth liner that's scoring 20 goals for you. That's a crazy weapon to have.
I think he's been so productive this season. He's played his way into the conversation for just not just the best value contract, at least outside of the rookie deals, which is a different, like if you have a rookie who's just producing at a high rate and you get the value of that, that's great. You got a generational talent on an unfair deal. But I think like of the veterans that have re-signed, played elsewhere, like we're talking one of the best contracts in all of the four major sports at this point.
Yeah, that thing being for 4 years, like even if Parker Kelly regresses, which he will some, this is almost certainly going to be his only 20-goal season of his career. But even if this is a guy that gives you 12, 13, 14 goals, that contract looks great. It's fantastic.
This type of production is just unreal. There's some luck involved, right? Like has had the exact opposite of the puck luck that Ross Colton has had this year. That there's always going to be an element of that, of things going your way when you're having this much success, but also at some point you're just putting yourself in position to succeed repeatedly and finding ways to capitalize.
I mean, this is cool. Stuff just falling down in the bar. This game is a perfect encapsulation of their seasons. Parker Kelly gets a great tip on a puck that just happens to find its way through like millimeter gaps to find the back of the net. And Ross Colton actually scores a sick goal, but one of his line mates was offside. Like that just sums it up at this point. What can you even do?
Just snake bit, man. He had another chance earlier or later in the game where he got set up too. And I was like, oh, he's going to get the redemption. And then just
didn't happen.
Just missed it a little wide, but it's
tough.
Been really cool to see Kelly like leaning more into the positive of the two situations. It's been cool to see a glue guy like him who's very clearly beloved in that locker room, who does the right things, be rewarded, for the effort that he gives on a night-to-night basis. Like I'd love to see a little bit of that luck rub off on Colton's way. Maybe borrow a stick or something, or gloves, like are you the same size gloves? Can you get some of that juju to rub off any way you can?
Gotta try. Might as well at this point. Chat, you figured out my bait, all right? You've got the good fishing bait on the line lately. It's going to get me every time. It's going to get me going. Blackwood's rebound control was not very good tonight. 100%. With that being said, that's Scott Wedgwood every night. Scott Wedgwood is like not a good rebound goalie. The known quantity there. Look at the difference in how well the Avs cleaned up rebounds. In the Wedgwood game, go watch the Dallas game and go watch how the Avs cleaned up rebounds in this game. And it's night and day. It's a complete difference there. I don't see how you can put that on Blackwood. And I do understand, hey, context. Avs have tired legs. Avs aren't going to quite be on the spot nearly as much in this game. Absolutely true. Would you love Blackwood to cover up some of those pucks? Yes, but he didn't. And the Avs didn't bail him out. All right.
You got to give your guy some help at some point. I agree. There were a couple of bounces where I felt like maybe he could have and should have hauled in, but that's how it's going to go over the course of the game. Like your guy's got to set you up for success to some degree. And he hasn't had a whole lot of help come his way these last couple of starts.
Yeah. And, is that a negative feedback loop to some extent of wanting more out of him? Maybe. We'll save this conversation for a minute because we are just about to run into a break here. But before we get to that break, J-Mike, St. Louis playing for their playoff lives here. I do think that is worth noting as well. And I'm not going to pretend the Avs came out and gave the A effort or anything like that. But St. Louis pushed to the death here, and the Avs, I think it would be unfair to only blame it on the legs. There was some coasting going on too.
Yeah, I mean, I think the mentality from the beginning going into this one was we'd like to win, but we won the game we really wanted to this weekend.
Yeah.
And you saw that early on. And they did play their way into it a little bit. I thought they got going. It wasn't like we saw 3 periods of nonchalant hockey, guys, not trying to jump out into the play, not doing things, but it wasn't a great effort. It wasn't a complete effort. And you got a really solid showing from a St. Louis team who was playing with desperation. Does set up an interesting rematch, though. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on, too.
We will. I do think that is an interesting conversation. We do need to hit that first break of the show, though, and shout out a few of our sponsors. So let's make sure we're hitting that, including the official vehicle of DNVR, which is Toyota. Jump in with a Toyota today and get into whether it's a truck, an SUV, a sedan. You can't go wrong. They've got amazing vehicles in all categories, even hatchbacks, crossovers, and everything in between. 17 of those vehicles with all-wheel drive, so you can be in control whether it's on the roads or if you like the trails and going off-roading, they've got you there too. I'm not really an off-road guy. I'll admit I just drive a car for my daily commute, which is why Toyota offers more low and zero-emission vehicles than any other automaker out there. 16 different hybrid vehicles, even hybrid trucks like the Tundra iForce Max. Get into your local Front Range Toyota stores and get a vehicle near you, including AutoNation Toyota Raplin, Centennial, Corbin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota, again, not just the official vehicle of DNVR, but the official vehicle of the Colorado Avalanche too. Toyota, let's go places.
Shout out Toyota. Shout out to our friends at the Colorado Soccer Association. The Colorado Soccer Association is the official hub for 65-plus soccer clubs across the state. They offer programs for youth players, adult players, coaches, referees, and families who want to get involved in the game. Kids can kick off their soccer journey as early as the age of 3, whether you're playing for fun, competing at the highest level, or exploring a career in soccer. There's something for everyone. Be part of the history. With the 2026 World Cup coming to the U.S. and a new NWSL team, the Denver Summit FC, joining Colorado, there's never been a more exciting time to play, cheer, be a part of that soccer buzz. It really is a fun time to be a soccer fan in the state of Colorado. If you want to get involved, visit coloradosoccer.org to find a club near you and be a part of the future of the game.
Do it. Toyota, great soccer mom car. Can confirm. That's the best I got there. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast, presented by Bet365. A couple of guys that I wanted to get into specifically, and we're kind of going to end up going all over the place, but this game was all over the place, so that's fine. I actually liked a lot of what Nathan MacKinnon did in this game. I thought he played pretty well, just couldn't quite find the finish in this game, couldn't find the number on the goal scoring part, and the one penalty he took was very dumb, admittedly. But everything else, I didn't have a ton of problems with MacK.
I thought he hunted his shot at times. I thought especially some chances where they had an opportunity to push it the other way, kind of in transition. He generated some nice stuff. Him and Marty, from a chemistry perspective, I thought were really fun to watch tonight. Yep. They were setting each other up. You could feel that they were playing off of each other, like understanding the timing of it all, the spacing. You didn't get the result, but I thought the process with those guys was pretty encouraging for the most part. I mean, yeah, you take the frustrating penalty late. I didn't love him kind of throwing a fit when he slams the stick against the wall. Like, you're still in the play at that point, and then he actually jumps back into the play. So I didn't love that. But overall, I thought it was a fine game from him. Like, not one you're going to look back on 2-3 months from now and be like, man, remember that MacKinnon game against the Blues? But I think this very easily could have been a multi-goal game for him.
I mind the emotion less from MacKinnon in a game like this. Obviously, I still don't love that he's doing it in the middle of the play. But I do think when he's playing decently and things aren't quite clicking and you see that emotion from him, that's coming from a place of, man, I need to be better, than more of just a general frustration or mad at the refs or other stupid reason that we see him sometimes get pissy about.
I think that's really fair. And he's, to be fair to him, one of those guys who you take that kind of stuff because the the intensity, the relentless psychopath competitiveness is such a big part of what makes him such a special player. So it's one of those you live with it. It's not like I was sitting there shaking my head. Oh man, I was just in the middle of the play. Maybe get to the bench first, then do whatever you want to. Break 100 sticks. I don't care.
The other player that I think is most interesting in this game to me is Sam Malinsky. And there's some good, some bad, and some weird in here for me, for Malinsky.
Start with the good.
Dominated possession. The Avs' best possession player in the game was Sam Malinsky, almost 70% Corsi for, and was the only defenseman that was really spending a lot of time in the offensive zone. I know Brent Burns did get the goal, but from that front, Sam Malinsky did a good job of being an offensive defenseman. From the bad, I think we learned Sam Malinsky's probably not a top pairing defenseman in this game, at least at 5-on-5. The read on the game-winning goal is just brutal. Repeatedly makes the wrong read, whether that's puck watching through the neutral zone or stopping up and defending the trailer instead of taking his man all the way down the ice, which was Robert Thomas, who ends up being undefended and putting the goal in. Now, to be fair, Malinsky is hoping that Marty Necas does anything of meaning defensively on the puck carrier, which he did not. But I just think we saw a little bit of the Malinsky getting exposed on the defensive side of the puck in this game, which is just reality. Like, I don't think anyone expected Sam Malinsky to be a top pairing defenseman. He's just forced into that role because Cale Makar is not in the lineup tonight. And unfortunately, the version of Devon Toews we've gotten this season is not a guy who can carry him through that.
Yeah, I mean, the dream scenario, you know he's not going to be Cale Makar, but you hope that he can elevate his play and really rise to the occasion. And the reality of that at times is that a lot of these guys are in the position that they are originally for a reason. Yep. And he's had an awesome season. He's an integral part of what the Avs do this year, and what makes them so relentless is that insane depth that they have. But especially on the defensive side, you felt the impact of not having a guy like Cale in this game. It felt like, I just think Cale probably finds a way to shut down one or two of those rushes the other way, right? And it's tough when you don't have him out there, and the chemistry's not quite there. You just feel it. It's one of those where I'm like, yeah, that's a bummer, but also you know that as soon as Cale's back out there and Malinsky's right back in his proper role, everything's going to be fine.
Yeah, zero worries about that long term. It's just
you did weirdly get good offensive production out of the defense tonight, because I know you mentioned Malinsky was really the only one consistently in there. Burns did a great job of getting pucks through the traffic and on net, but like from a point production standpoint, those guys did a good job of contributing without Cale out there. But defensively, man, you felt that one tonight.
It was tough for sure. And then the weird. You had 3 power plays tonight, and you put Devon Toews with your first unit on all 3 of them. And I just don't understand. That's not true. I do understand. Bednar does that all the time for Makar when he's tired. But after watching the first 2 power plays of tonight, I don't understand why you're not at least trying Malinsky there. I know you did it one time and the Avs immediately gave up a shorthanded goal, but again, that wasn't really Malinsky's fault. That was on Nathan MacKinnon. And then you've completely stopped it, and I don't know why. Devon Toews, it might as well be an unnamed be a player up there. Never looks at the net, never a threat to shoot the puck. He's simply a rebound board to pass the puck back to Nathan MacKinnon or over to the other side to Nazem Kadri. And this is not meant to be a knock on Devon Toews. It's just very clearly not a situation that he has the knowledge or effort or experience to play in effectively. And you have a guy like Malinsky that long-term you're looking at, this could be something you want him to do. And to not use it after you go, first of all, the first power play was just horrible. So you might as well try something else. And then you watch the other ones from Toews and you don't really get anything meaningful out of him. I just don't understand why Bednar seems so unwilling to try it.
It feels like a really safe move. Like if you're playing poker, it just feels like you're not even playing the cards at some point, right? Like you have to put some type of fear into the defense that guy out there is going to potentially burn you. He has a chance to put the puck on net, has a chance to create something. And when you can basically know, he's not going to generate something, I just think that really makes the spacing tough for everybody else on the ice. It allows you to clog things up defensively, and you're just not potent enough with him out there. I get that he's probably the safer play in the sense of he's going to likely get back, like probably not going to be a liability because he's trying to do too much. But right now he's just not really trying to do a whole lot of anything as far as generating, scoring chances.
Yep. I'm not really putting this on Taves. Again, I don't think Taves was particularly good for tonight. He's pretty on the hook for the Avs' second goal. But from a Bednar perspective, I don't understand why.
Especially now, right? Like these are the games where you, in theory, would do that, and he's shown a willingness to do it before. So, kind of an odd one.
Yeah, especially you're willing to sit Nichushkin for this game. You saw a good amount of blending of the lines at 5-on-5 and the D pairs, honestly, at 5-on-5. And then you just seem stuck in your ways on this power play thing. That big picture, I'm not concerned about the power play. Your power play's bad because you lost Cale Makar. Okay, yeah, math adds up. I'm not going to think any further than that on the power play. But with that opportunity, I don't know. I really like Bednar. I think he's a great coach. I have no problems with him. I think he's about to take the Avs very far into the playoffs this year. A thing I have not liked about him is when he gets stubborn with these decisions.
It does feel like you are in kind of a weird state of limbo at the moment where you're still competing. Like the season's not over. You still have things to accomplish, wrap up the division, potentially get the President's Trophy. But you are also in that we're kind of shutting it down, kind of prioritizing rest, kind of using this as an opportunity to tinker and experiment. And I wonder if at times that just kind of gets you in this weird back and forth, or this dilemma of, well, which do I prioritize more in this exact instance? And maybe that might get a little like, well, this is probably what balance. I feel like is better. And
yeah, fair enough. On the flip side, again, I'm trying to keep some positives out of this game. Avs penalty kill. Excellent Phenomenal. In this game. I mean, they just completely owned the Blues in this one. Would have loved Brock Nelson to maybe finish that shorty, but you can't have everything. So
feels like the Avs are due a few of those at some point, just statistically speaking, right? Like those averages have to regress to the mean at some point. They can't all go against the Avs.
Eventually one's got to go in, but unfortunately not the case in this one. But it's funny how games work like that. For a game where the Avs really felt out of structure and out of place in their own zone defensively at 5-on-5, their PK did everything right. And I can find some respect in that. And obviously the Avs didn't get it done. They didn't win the game. But when you're having portions of your game that maybe aren't working well, other ones need to step up and have a good game, and your PK deserves a lot of credit for that.
And I think that does speak to the competitiveness of this team, even if they're not 100% locked in. Like, they're not going to just hang their heads and get embarrassed at home again, and I know they fought back into that Vancouver game too, but that's how things really compound and spiral on you, right? Like you have a goal get overturned, you're in your feelings, and you give up another one the other way, and then you get a dumb penalty, and you just give up a quick power play goal, and that's how, like, all of a sudden you look up and it's, oh shit, it's a 4-1 game.
Yep. Look, some of those penalties, dumb. I already talked about the McKinnon one. I really did think the Manson one in the third period was a little bit soft, but it's always Josh Manson. Like, sometimes you have to put
reputation
two and two together.
Probably comes into play a little bit there.
Right. He's got to know they have his number already, and he can't put himself in a 50-50 call situation. But your PK bails you out. Great. Awesome. That's something you can carry forward from a game that you probably didn't love, but know you can rely on something. I do want to get into Blackwood, and we'll hear from Bailey and Bednar too at some point as well, but we do need to take our second break of the show here and shout out a few more of our sponsors, including our presenting sponsor in Bet365. Look, if you bet on Blues, if you emotional hedge this game, you made a lot of money on the St. Louis Blues winning this game. They were good bit plus money, so that's always an option. Bet365, an official betting partner of the Colorado Avalanche. You can get in with them on any NHL bet right now. If your team gets up by 3 goals at any point in the game, you get paid out immediately. You don't have to wait for the end of the game. You don't have to worry about any comebacks. You just get that money. And when you sign up with code DNVR365 on a new account, you bet $10 on anything, you get $365 in bonus bets. It really is as simple as it sounds. Once you sign up and place your first $10 bet, they'll throw you $365 in bonus bets, win or lose. There's never been a better time to prep for the playoffs with Bet365. Bet365, where winning is everything. You can download that app today and use code DNVR365 at sign up. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Please gamble responsibly. Must be present in Colorado. $10 minimum deposit required. Bonus bet wager excluded from returns. New customers only. 21 plus. Time limits, minimum odds, and terms and conditions apply. In-app only. Void where prohibited.
Bring your friends, fans, and frenemies together, one Casamigos Marg at a time. No matter who you're supporting, say cheers with a Casamigos Margarita. Pair your World Cup watch party food with a delicious new ready-to-enjoy Casamigos Margarita. Made with the best simple ingredients, Blanco tequila, lime juice, and natural flavors. They're sure to rival any of your favorite hangout spots. Uncork, pour over ice, and garnish with lime. Just 110 calories per serving. Love that. Real juice. They've got 2 flavors, classic lime and spicy. Be on the lookout for USMNT watch parties this summer. It's going to be a blast. Whether you're at your favorite spot or stocking up for home, make it Casamigos. You a margarita man, Rudo?
I'm not. I am.
I'm not either, unfortunately. So we'll take Tiff there and let her go ham sometime, and then we can get some real.
I'll bring the wifey, and she'll have the margarita, and I'll drink a beer.
You ever have a beer Rita?
I have.
Or like
I do
a
like
beer
Rita.
Or like a beer slushy Rita. Oh my gosh, so good.
Sure. I like my simple drinks. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by Bet365. Look, I don't know what Blackwood is supposed to do better in this game. Sure, have marginally better rebound control. Yeah, okay. I guess if you're really digging for something to do better. But all 3 goals that get scored on him, how's he supposed to stop any of those?
There was one of them where I felt maybe he could have got the glove on it and just didn't see it soon enough, but that's splitting hairs, man, and that's quite easy for me to say from my office chair here. So I think the simple answer here is you've just got to give that guy a little bit more help. I actually credit him because I think after giving up the second one, fear starts to creep in the back of the minds of the fans a little bit. Oh, God, what are we doing? Thought he settled in pretty nicely, made some big saves down the stretch, allowed him to hang in there. But you've got to get my man some help out there. It's been a tough scene these last couple of games, and he's got to be better, but the people in front of him got to be a hell of a lot better.
Yeah, it's the first one we already talked about. The sequence ends with a shot from the high slot from their best player. The second one is their best player wide open on the far side of a cross crease pass that, okay, in an absolutely perfect world where he gets the best push across of his life, maybe he makes an unbelievable save. But the expectation there can never be that he makes the save. And then the third one is a dude undefended on the back door without an Avs player within 6 feet of him that no goalie on the planet is stopping because he has to respect the shooter because Natchez is sliding into the corner nowhere near the puck carrier. So, yeah, I really struggle with any blame on Blackwood in this game. The other side of that, though, is it's not like he played out of his mind and kept the Avs in the game, so I don't think you really get a net positive out of the game for Blackwood either.
Yeah, I mean, I've made it clear at this point that I'm kind of on that Scott Wedgwood train. I've just felt like he's been the man when the lights have shined brighter, but I also just feel like it's tough to take a whole lot in the big picture from this one, other than if you were ready to completely give up on Blackwood altogether after the Vancouver game. I don't think this was the type of performance that would affirm that type of stance. I also don't think it was the type of game where you sit there and be like, man, he completely changed the conversation here. Like he validated everything that made the Avs believe in him in the first place. And this is why they think he can be the guy. I do still feel like we're kind of waiting for that type of game from him. But like you've said, with all those goals, it's hard to pin much of the blame on him in this one.
Is what it is. We do have Bailey Curtis calling in live on the courtesy call from Ball Arena on the Xfinity mobile call-in line. Bailey, SEGABABA blah, or do you think the Avs could have tightened things up?
I'm more inclined to lead toward the first. I mean, especially after the game in Dallas, it's such a tight game. You're playing such a tight checking game. You're not allowing many odd man rushes. Playing the game to a T against a very high octane opponent. It's really hard to recover after a game like that when you don't have a back-to-back situation and move on to the next game. To be able to play a game like that within less than a 48-hour span is, I can't wrap my brain around it. So I'm more inclined to give them a little bit of leeway in this one. With all of that said, you look at this one and there's a lot to clean up, but there's also a lot of good to come out of it too. And so I don't think this is one of those games that Jared Bednar is looking at and saying like, you've seen those games from him before where he's like, nothing went right. Nothing worked well for us. And we have a lot to talk about. Like there's a lot of good to talk about in comparison with a lot of the bad.
I would agree. Certainly a frustrating way to lose the game, but I don't think it was just all awful for the Avs. On Bedsy, what's his outlook on this game then? If it wasn't just I hated everything, is he trying to pull positives out of this game? Is he trying to pull things to work out of this game, or is he not worried either way?
It's a little bit of both, because I think the big mindset is still that there are a couple more games to win before they can sit and coast maybe the way that they want to. And I wouldn't necessarily call this game a coasty game by any means. And that's kind of the impression that I got from him as well. He's sitting there breaking things down for us, talking about, he focused a lot on the odd man rushes, went as far as to say, I don't know, as though we gave up more than two, if that, in the last game against Dallas, and there was just a lot more allowed in a game like this. I called this game a little bit disorganized for the team in their own zone as well, which I think is a huge kind of asterisk to move back to as they head into the next game against the Blues on Tuesday. So there's a lot to work on. I really liked something that Parker Kelly said after this game too, and it kind of feels similar to how Bednar feels. You've got 3 more periods to play against this team. That's really how they're kind of looking at this one.
Does definitely set up an interesting rematch on Tuesday night. You guys also heard from Nathan MacKinnon post-game. He had some opportunities in this one. Rudo and I kind of talked about that, liked a lot from him, also took the dumb penalty, showed some frustration. I'm curious, just what was his demeanor like post-game, and what kind of stood out from what Nate Dogg said?
As far as demeanor goes, this was one of the more interesting post-game loss scrums from Nathan MacKinnon. He was actually very eager to talk to the media after this one.
Whatever happened?
It's a situation. No, right. That's kind of how I felt about it too. It's always really exciting when you're looking for people to talk after a loss. Not many of the guys are excited to talk after a loss like this. Nathan McKinnon speaks up and goes, "I can talk, guys," and that was that. Um, Gave a really good scrum. Called it a very tight game. Um, I think he he was a little weird as far as like how he felt about it. Kind of back and forth, focused a lot on the positives. Um, Called it a very back and forth game. The big takeaway from it though is just it felt very tight to him. But they've got to turn the page. That's really the biggest key to it here. They're really trying not to focus too much on tight games like this and being able to take away the positives. Nathan McKinnon's a very analytical player. It's something that's been affirmed over the last couple weeks and how much he looks at the game and how detailed he is when going back and combing through games. Something that Chris McFarland affirmed at the Halo conference just a couple days ago. And that's really kind of how he approached, I guess, this scrum with us, and just kind of it was tight. Like that's really how he felt about it. And he didn't
What
give
were
a
the
lot of leeway
positives
in
that
it.
he wanted to emphasize?
Marty was a big one that he talked about. Being able to, playing next to Marty and some of the opportunities that you gave him. That was the big one that he touched on. He was able to touch on Parker Kelly a little bit and what he's been doing on the ice, the work ethic. Brent Burns, he touched on a little bit tonight as well. And obviously a lot more of that is just like, okay, what's it like being able to play with a guy who played in his 1,000th consecutive game? But says he's learned a lot from him as far as work ethic and mentality coming into the rink. But as far as those positives go, it's really Martin Netchus was the big one that he touched on, and being able to create a lot of the scoring opportunities, and seeing him on the ice, that was the big one.
Parker Kelly freed the Whales and reached goal number 20. Is there room to allow for a bit of celebration for a milestone like that, to bring some levity even with a loss?
He didn't seem to think so. Asked him about it, or we asked him about it after the game. Obviously, it's a huge moment for him in his career, right? Being able to hit 20 goals, it's something Jared Bednar was really excited to touch on during post game and saying like it's 20 goal marks hard to hit for a lot of NHLers that aren't high talent players. And Parker Kelly's performing at a level that seemingly kind of blows his mind a little bit. Parker Kelly, on the other hand, players get down after a loss like this. It's a little hard to, I guess, toot your own horn a little bit. And Parker just kind of mentioned that he's getting a lot of luck with a lot of the ones that he's scoring this year. He mentioned specifically this one goes off one of their guys. Seems like everything is just going in, he said. And so like that's kind of, it's not dissimilar to things that he's said after practices or in different situations where he's not weighed down by a loss. That's really like his big mindset with a lot of these situations that are going in for him, is that it's luck, and that's what happens when you put pucks on net. And you're seeing him take some more of those shots and some more of those opportunities and seeing the ice a little bit better. He wasn't able to go into a little bit, or as much as maybe I would have liked him to, just because I personally am super excited for him in this milestone. And I know a lot of Avs fans and a lot of his teammates are too. Nathan McKinnon had a lot of good to say. That's where a lot of his positive out of his presser came from. But he personally was just like, yeah, it's, we have to look ahead. He's really happy with what he's been doing this year, but they've got a bigger prize ahead than him being able to score his 20th goal.
Yeah, that's all I've got for you. What do you got, Rudo?
Yeah, only last thing for me. The Avs, have 6 games left, and they need to go 1-5 to clinch the West. I can't imagine anyone's panicking.
No, not at all. And that was kind of made evident by the way that Bednar addressed Valeri Nichushkin. As we all know, the news dropped before the game that Valeri Nichushkin would be out with an upper body injury, would not play. He was classified as day-to-day, per Jared Bednar, said he could be an option for Tuesday. But at this point in the season, he's really looking at this as if players are hurt, why are you going to put them in a situation that they could get hurt worse in? So they're really that if you're looking at a team hitting the panic button, this is not the mentality of a team hitting the panic button. Yes, they want to win those games. Yes, that is the biggest thing on their mind, given some of the comments from Parker Kelly, given some of the comments as of recent by Jared Bednar. But they're not worried about it. They're, and I quote, the best team and one of the best teams in the NHL. From one of the players tonight. So it's, you go and play like that, even with some of your best guys missing from the roster, you're fine. You will get to that point at some point by the end of the regular season. They are not worried about it at all.
The NHL really needs a late season injury designation of not 100% as
Yep. Jared Bednar would be hitting that button a lot if that were so.
Yeah, that's all I had, Bailey. You got any final thoughts here?
Nah, not a whole lot. They deserve a day of rest. They've got the day off tomorrow to hopefully get some of that before they head back out to St. Louis to finish up these last 3 periods.
There you go. Go take care of them in the next one. Bailey, we'll let you go. She's on Studs and Duds tonight, and we'll actually have to write some duds this time. So we'll see what you come up
that
with.
isn't frickin' power play. Wish me luck.
Go check it out at thednvr.com and make sure you're following Bailey on Twitter at Bailey Curtis, Bailey with 2 Ys. I think the Avs are certainly pretty comfortable where they're at. Of course, you want them to close out the Western Conference and the President's Trophy, but they very likely will. There's a non-zero chance that Dallas loses their next game, and that's it. The Avs clinch the West. So rather have them take care of business. Of course, you'd rather have them win this one, but I don't overstress on this one.
This is far from what you saw against Vancouver in terms of like quality of play, being alarmed, that type of stuff. And even that one, you could kind of throw it out the window. But yeah, this is one I don't think you put a whole lot of stock into. And frankly, it wouldn't be surprised if we saw a pretty stout response from the Avs in the next game.
And then they're going to rest their guys the rest of the season after that.
Yeah, and then they might not try again for the rest of the regular season, to be fair. But
I did want to hear from Bednar as well, so let's see what Coach had to say about this one.
I'd take questions for head coach Jared Bednar. Go ahead.
Coach, maybe not the result you wanted, but Parker Kelly, first 20 goals season of his career. I mean, you've been able to see the work and everything that he puts into on the ice. I mean, just how excited are you to see that?
Really happy to see it. I mean, just because he gives you everything he's got every night, every shift, like super consistent player. And, when you got workers and grinders like that and they're able to have a big year, obviously helps the team, but really happy for him personally to be able to, tuck 20 is no easy task in this league. And, I mean, he earns every one of them.
Evan.
I think Val played until the buzzer yesterday. Is there a timeline on what he's dealing with there?
Yeah, day to day. I mean, it's possible. He's probably a possibility even for Tuesday. We'll just see how he feels the next couple days. Just that time of the year, you get some little bumps and bruises. Everybody has them, but like sometimes there's something a little bit more significant. But I don't want to be playing guys hurt if it can get worse, So you got to be careful on some of them. That's what we did today with Val.
Colleen.
Tight game. Does it make it any easier to just kind of let this one go because you're facing them again on Tuesday?
Makes it easier if you beat them on Tuesday.
Jesse.
Coach, obviously you guys had potential conference clinching game on the line here. That's a
tough one to happen late. Just what did you see kind of over the course of this game? What did you like? What didn't you like?
Well, there's lots that I liked. There's some things that I didn't like too, and that's, we gave up too many odd man rushes again. They got 3 goals off the rush, right? I know the first one kicks around a little bit, but it's all because we're disorganized coming into our own zone because they had numbers beating us up the ice, right? So then they get the odd man rush in the second one, the odd man rush in the third one late in the game can happen. So what we've been talking about a lot here. Certainly we created some really good rush chances too. Nate's probably in on the goalie 3-4 times all alone. Marty goes in alone, but we didn't capitalize. They did. But I don't like trading those rush chances. We got to be more committed to it. We were last night. I don't know if we gave up an odd man rush the entire game last night. We've been talking about it a lot, so we got to make sure that we're committed to it. Otherwise, you're not going to win.
Eric.
After the Vancouver game, you said that if you're making excuses, you're not going to have a long playoff run, and then you go into Dallas and do what you did, and then you play this game, and it kind of just seems to be going. Like, how do you explain what's happening here?
It's strictly commitment. That's all it is. Nothing else. Commitment to play the right way.
Megan.
Parker said this game had a playoff feel, and we've had a couple of games like that when it's really big games, obviously Dallas last night. It's helpful to prepare players to ramp up for playoff intensity, but how does that help you as a coach?
I prepare for every game the exact same way. So, all 82 games help you, It's just, but there's no different, nothing happens different for me from game 1 of exhibition, except for, like, you may give some guys some opportunities, some looks, and when regular season starts, you're playing to win every night, and you're preparing your team the same way every night, just like I kind of expect our players to prepare the same way every night to get ready to go.
Okay, thank you, Jared.
Thanks.
All right. I think Bedsy's saying a lot without saying a lot with some of those conversations. Yeah. Avs weren't committed to playing the right way. Simple enough for me. I don't think they are putting a lot of stock in this loss, despite things they want to clean up. I'm not putting a lot of stock in this loss, despite things to clean up. But I do think you have to take a look at the offense in this game, and particularly from your middle 6 on your forward core. I think you need to get a little bit more out of them. Brock Nelson, multiple great chances tonight that he just can't seem to find to put the back of the net. You put Nazem Kadri back on the wing, and it went as expected, as not great because he's not a winger. And then your third line, unfortunately, should have scored a goal, but made the mistake of going offside and then pretty much disappeared for the rest of the game. If you're getting it from your fourth line guys, you need it from those guys too.
Certainly would have loved to have seen them find a way to find the back of the net in this one. Also, even more than the fact that they didn't score in this one and missed some opportunities, like, to me, you had a stretch in the first period where you didn't get a shot on net for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, those are times where those guys, like, just put something on net, man.
Well, and it's a stark contrast, right? Because you see how frequently is it those fourth line guys, the Kellys, the LOCs, they're the spark plug. They're the guys who get the Avs back into the game in the first period, obviously by scoring the goal, but they score that goal by having really good shifts in the offensive zone, forcing St. Louis to defend, doing that, playing the right way Bednar is talking about. And if you're getting that from your fourth line, you look at the second and third line and say, where is that? We need a little bit more.
I think you just like to see those guys find a way to create some type of spark, with a little bit more consistency, especially in this type of game where you don't have Cale Makar, Yarmouth, and, one of your stars, just whoever it is, Brock or Landy or what, like, just rip something and see if you can create a bounce or anything. Like, I get you can't just do that all game, but when you're going 10 minutes without a shot, like, at some point, just see what happens.
Just a good amount of disconnected hockey from that. And I want to be fair. Nelson gets a
Shuffling
secondary
probably
assist
doesn't help. Yeah.
on the Burns goal, and Landy's like puts a really good screen on the Burns goal. It's not like they did nothing all night, but the actual execution from that line, Landy in particular had like 3 or 4 passes that were just to the other team. Like, I don't know. It was rough.
The ice maybe wasn't killer tonight. It
Yeah.
seemed like there were a couple of stretches where maybe it got a little bit wonky on him, but yeah, you'd like to see those guys execute with a little bit more consistency, just because, again, especially when you look at a guy like Parker Kelly, who's just taken advantage of every opportunity available to him. Sure, there's some luck involved in that, but I also think guys that are lucky often tend to create their own luck by doing the right things to put themselves in that position in the first place.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. If you're sitting in the corner, you're not going to get a tip that goes into the net, right? You got to be in the right places. The Toyota chat, Randy asking, Rudo, who sits when we're healthy if that happens? It's Kibby.
Yeah, it's Kiwi, I think. Yeah.
And I don't think this is the game to have this argument, because Ross Golton literally scored a goal in this game. It just didn't count because one of his line mates was offside. Like, I don't think you can fault Ross for someone else's mistake on a play that he made well, even if it's not ultimately going to be on the score sheet at the end of the game. That play still happened. He still did a good thing.
And I think Ross is, I don't know, I'm just going to stick to, I just don't, I think he's had so many better opportunities than you would assume if you just glanced at the raw numbers and are like, man, the goal production isn't there. Like, tonight's a perfect example of he's been in the right spot so many times this season for whatever reason. That guy just cannot seem to catch a break when it comes to overturned goals, bad bounces. Like,
Yep.
I don't know whatever his pregame ritual is, but he's got to find some type of shakeup here, because just got to get that juju going his way.
And I think part of that well, first of all, Bardakov comes out first, but obviously, like, we already knew that was the case. He just stepped in because Val was out for today and however long he's out. But also, a completely healthy team in the playoffs is pretty much a myth. Like, you guys are going to go down. Point. You're going to have to manage it, and Kivy will find a way back into the lineup in that regard to some extent. So it may be a moot point anyway, depending on how things shake out. This really does start to feel like the doldrums of a season where everybody knows the Avs are going to clinch. We're kind of just sitting around waiting for it. Everybody knows things are going to get turned up when the playoffs start. We're just sitting around waiting for it. And we can sit here and twiddle our thumbs and say nothing matters, or we can sit here and twiddle our thumbs and pick out every little negative detail and say the Avs are doomed. And the reality is it's probably somewhere in the middle. Of course, you want the Avs to play well, but you also know that you're not going to have a back-to-back in the playoffs where the Avs are not rested and St. Louis is. Like, there are realities that do affect these games in ways that don't apply to the playoffs.
You're going to play 6 games here over, the next 11 days, which is just asinine. Like, that's so much meaningless. And I know that it's not going to be like that across the board in the league, but I would just take basically everything with a grain of salt over the next week and a half.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of context that needs to be considered with basically everything that you dive into.
Yeah. Context matters. And I like, it's a fine line, right? I see the Toyota chat talking about it earlier. Somewhere between context and excuse exists, right? Where do you cross that line? It's probably a little bit different for everybody. There's a little bit of a gray area there. And to be honest, I don't think it's so much making excuses for the Avs as it is just apathy.
Yeah.
Certainly on a game-to-game vacuum basis, that sucks, man. Especially when they've done it so often at home ice over the last stretch. Fans are in the building paying for you to watch to play hockey. Like, come on. Step up a little bit. But big picture, it's like, this doesn't matter.
Like, had you not responded the way that you did against Dallas, maybe it's a different conversation. But I think you look at most of the big matchups over the the entire season, but even just focusing on the present over the last month and a half, like the Avs have shown when it's that type of setting, they're going to be up for it. So I don't really see the value in panicking when also really you're just trying to get through these games as healthy as possible. Like, you don't want to go over into the playoffs. Like, nobody wants to carry, a 7-game losing streak into the postseason, even then, like, it really wouldn't truly matter all that much.
Pretty decent chance the Avs win the President's Trophy if they do that. Like,
yeah, like you're still probably going to do it. So I think we just have to recognize this weird spot we're in and try and value everything with the proper context, and we'll see what we get here. But it's going to be some wonky hockey. Like, I know we're in for some weirdness here over the next week and a half.
Yeah, expect it. We are into overtime here. The conversation continues online. Another one from the Toyota chat here saying, can you talk about the goalie losing his blade? Rule says that's not a stoppage. I don't actually know why they did they stop it because he lost his blade? I thought there was a different reason.
I think it was already a play that was blown dead before it. So I thought it was a frozen puck or it went out of play or something like that.
I didn't think they stopped it because of the blade, but I could be remembering incorrectly. Either way, that play was wild and crazy. And I think two things are true. One, Avs, another one of many grade A opportunities that they couldn't find a way to put in the back of the net. It's that it was mostly the second line. Lecky was taking shifts with the second line tonight, and Nelson couldn't find the back of the net on that one. But two, Hofer and then another blue just kind of sit down on top of Arturi Lehkonen. Like,
that was my question, was how is that not a penalty?
Right.
Like, he was on him for a good 10 seconds. Like, while they're battling for the puck, he's just not letting him get up.
Yeah, it's questionable. Questionable to me on that one. And I don't really want to talk about this, but just because we ended up in the topic, Avs were going to lose anyway. Don't take this as anything else. They blew the game by giving up that third goal. Bro, if Gabe Landeskog is losing his mind on you, you probably made the wrong call. Like,
I feel like they missed at least 3 pretty blatant trips tonight where it was just like, oh, all right, I guess you can just take them out like that. But yeah, I mean, it's not on the officiating in the end, but I think even down to that last Landy penalty where by the book, I do think it is a slash, but I'm about 99.5% sure that stick was already broken. So that's just kind of bad luck.
Mm-hmm. And like, there are plenty of captains in the league. If Jamie Benn comes up to you and is mad about a call, or if Brady Tkachuk comes up to you and is mad about a call, you're not taking that guy seriously. Come on, let's be honest. If Gabe Landeskog is that irate about a call, you have to at least consider that you missed that one.
It's like him or Kale. If they're on you, then you should probably reevaluate some things. I love Nate, but Nate might scream at you just because he's just a little amped up at the moment. Like,
I'm
for
not
Landy
taking Nate's complaint seriously. Definitely not.
to full on break the stick and, be that demonstrative and in some senses show up the officials, which is just not really the kind of guy. And like, I'm not saying that in a judgmental tone at all. Landy's earned the right to, if he flips out, I'm just going to give him the benefit of the doubt every single time. But yeah, I think you got to reevaluate if you can get Landy that pressed.
Something weird happened for sure. I guess that's going to wrap it up for us for this one. We will have an off day show tomorrow, so come join Bailey and I for that one. We appreciate all y'all hanging out. Hopefully the Avs clinch one way or another coming up here. This has been the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by Bet365.
We all silly like the mayor.